Hey, can you see me? This time at the Quick Speed Shop, I'm under the 40 Mercury. I'm running new fuel lines all the way from the fuel pump to the tank and putting in a fuel filter and stuff, and I'm going to show you how I'm doing it right now. I'm a professional, don't try this at home. Ooh, there's some thunder. Uh-oh. Good thing I'm in the garage. All right, here we go. I'm working on the 40 Mercury here. I'm building fuel lines. All right, what am I using to make the fuel lines? I'm using 3/8 copper nickel alloy brake line, fuel line. This is the stuff here. This is 5/16. This is Nicorp. It's copper, nickel, and iron mixed together. Makes brake lines, fuel lines. Stuff doesn't rust. It bends real easy. So I'm making up a line. I'm starting from the back of the car going forward. I've already rolled off a piece and bent it up a little bit here. I have a 3/8 fuel filter that's going on here. I use my brake line tool to put a little flare. Now it kind of mangles the end of the 3/8. If you can see, that's kind of mangled up there. That doesn't matter. I'm just using it as a little stop for a hose to help hold the hose on. And then the clamp will be back here on the line, so it doesn't matter that it mushed that up a little bit. But if that was a brake line fitting, it obviously would leak. But the hose will just go right on there. So we'll go under the car. I'll show you what I'm doing. Working from the tank forward. And this is going to come out all right. Okay, under the car here, you can see I'm starting the tank. I got the Mustang tank. I got my 3/8 line here. And I'm going to come off that with some hose for a little bit of flexible action. But I'm going up to the shot cross member up here. I'm going to mount my steel line to that. And I gotta see which end is which here. Hold on a second. Got a feeling that I got it backwards. Ah, there goes the paint. Watch the paint. Alright, here we go. Ah. So I want to go down the frame rail down here. And what in the world's going on here? Okay. So there we go. So what I'm going to do is make the line so it mounts on the frame rail. And I'm going to come off the tank up here, a short piece of 3/8 rubber hose. And it's going to attach to the line. The line just kind of free air here. And we'll use the rubber hose to make the connection. And then you see this other fitting here. This is for the return line to the fuel pump. I'm using a 400 cubic inch small block Chevy fuel pump, which has a pickup and return on it to help prevent vapor lock by rotating the fuel through the suction hose and then any excess back through the return hose. It helps keep the fuel from deadheading and overheating and pressurizing and vapor locking. So I did a video where I put that fuel pump in. So right now we're going to do the 3/8 main line, and then the 1/4 inch line I'll kind of make up a match to it. So you can see down the line here, you see the old aluminum line way up there with the old fuel pressure regulator. That's all coming off. This line is going to go on and screw to the frame with some line clamps, and then I'm going to put a bend in it here and mount the fuel filter, the fuel filter, pretty much where that blue one is, and it's going to be the one I showed you up on the bench. That'll mount there, then I'll have another piece of hard line go down. So I pretty much bent this stuff up and got it kind of looking how I want it to look. I just need to, I'm going to put a kink at the end to move out for the fuel filter, but I can do that by hand once the line is mounted here. Okay, you can see that I've run the line up here now. I put my fuel filter on. I got the old fuel line out of the way, which was already cut off up there. I used 2 clamps here so it's nice and secure, and the fuel filter mounts here, and then I'll run the next piece, a short piece of hose off, then continue with the hard line. I'm going to try to roll the line out and run one continuous piece all the way up through the frame rail up to the fuel pump in the front, which I think I can do. It'll come through this round hole in the X-brace here, and it'll tie into here, and there'll be one more clamp in the frame and a couple more up that way. But I think once I get through that hole, I can just kind of bend it to the front of the X-brace and then run it down the inside of the right front frame rail up near the pump, and then use the rubber hose connected up there, so I won't have any more fittings, and it'll be pretty much a continuous line. It'll be a lot easier, you know, if you're building the car before you put the body on and you do the chassis. It's a lot easier to run the fuel lines and brake lines and all that when the body is off the chassis. Obviously we're working on a car that's not a part here, so got to do it the hard way and try to fish it through everything. Well, I've been struggling here. I got the line jammed up through. It's just it's laying on the coil right now. I got it stuck to the frame. But up here, trying to figure out how to hook this up. I got one clamp in down here mounted to the frame to hold the line. The screw's a little bit loose, so I've been yanking on it. But what I did is, you see the line here, and it goes through the frame. I've got to do some tweaking and clamping to that X member. But I stuck it through, and I sleeved the line with a piece of 3/8 hose here where it is near brake line fittings and stuff. And I'm going to put another clamp on it up here to hold it to the frame up here. But I wanted some extra protection because this copper nickel ally line is susceptible to wearing through if it rubs on anything. So I wanted to be extra sure it was protected up here. There's like a sharp edge of a clamp down here. So I've got that protected, and what I've come up with, hopefully it works out. So I'm essentially going to make a loop around with the fuel hose. It's going to jam on here, then it'll clamp here and clamp here on the fuel pump. But that'll give it a nice curve, and it'll be able to, the engine will be able to vibrate, and there'll be a lot of slop here. This is a good sturdy hose, so it's not pinched or nothing. So that should work. And then I've got to get under here and just clamp it a whole bunch of times, probably like 2 or 3 times to the X member. I've got to do some hand bending here to suck this in and get everything mounted up tight. I can tighten that clamp up, put a clamp back here to hold this, just try to keep it away from everything. But that's what I got working on so far. I got super hot in here and humid. I got to turn the fan on. So let me get some more clamps on this, and then we'll go back under the car. I would put my fuel injection clamps on here, but I'm out of them. So right now, I'm not going to be able to do that. But I've just got this laid out so you can see how it's going to look. So I came down through the X frame, and then down here I got a clamp here, and then I bent it around here, and I poked out a hole, but it's nice and clamped into here good. And then I come through the X frame here, down, and I ran out of 3/8 style for that clamp there, so I had to take another style clamp to take the rubber off it. And I'm using a piece of fuel holes to make an isolator, and it holds it good. So I've got that mounted. I got the fuel filter mounted. I found one more clamp for here, but I need one more here, so I haven't tightened that down yet. I got the fuel filter mounted here. It's easy to get at to change, and then you can see the line runs up and around back to the tank there. So the routing of the 3/8 suction line is done. So now I just need to do the 1/4 inch return line, and I think I'm just going to run right below this here. See, there's a weld seam here in the tubing. I got to put my clamps down. This is actually 2 pieces of tubing welded together, so I got to put the clamps down here to screw into this. So I'll run that 1/4 inch line down, below this, and just parallel it over there and pick up the tank, and then do the same thing. Come around the front, back up through here like this one down along there, and tie into the fuel pump up there. Alright, so like I said, so it parallels the bend back here, and I came up here, I got it clamped. I'm just using a short piece of rubber hose to make the connection between the front line and the rear line. It's going to be fine because there's almost no pressure on the return line here. If I was building this car, originally, if I was the original builder, I would have had the body off. I would have done all this with like flared fittings and unions and stuff, which I could have done on this line, but it's a lot easier for me. Just I'm ramrodding these things in here. It's going to be fine. So I'm just going to use a piece of short hose and then 2 fuel injection clamps. They'll be fine under here. It'll give me a point where I can take the car apart, or take the line apart if I have to. But I've got some 1/4 inch line rolled out here off the roll. I'm just going to stick it back up through the frame, just like the 3/8 supply line. And I'll bend it up to match, and I'll clamp it along the way. And then after that, I can... once I get that done, I can put the drive shaft in, because I don't need that. There's no reason I can't put that in. So we got the drive line connected. So I'm just going to go ahead and run the line, bend it all up, and clamp it similar to the upper 3/8 line. And then show you what it looks like when I get done with that. Okay, I got the line all run here. I got it looped around, just stuck together there. But you can see the 2 loops for the fuel pump. They should work out good. And then I've run the lines parallel down. I used the Roadkill spark plug loom zip tie trick to make a spacer refer the fuel lines there, and then we'll go under the car, and I got it mounted up. But the fuel lines are all, as soon as I get my clamps, I'll be ready for fuel in action to go in the motor. And see, I ran this line down parallel, so they're both running down the frame rail nice on the cross member here, or the X member. And then they poke out and run down. There's a filter. I actually used some worm drive clamps just to clamp up the rubber piece, just because it was so hard to fit together, and then I got my clamp on here, but that's all tightened. So the return line's all ready to go, and I've just got to get a couple of fuel injection clamps for everything to finish it off. So you can see here down there, run down, and they parallel up. I did another zip tie spacer trick there on the line, and then ran down and then to the fuel tank. So the fuel system is essentially complete. I just got to hook up the wire for the sending unit for the gas gauge. But right now I'm going to get the drive shaft, and I'm going to throw that up in here, and we'll have complete driveline action. I had to have the drive shaft shortened an inch because of the different rear end. I got greasy fingerprints on it, but it should, hopefully it'll go right in here. Here we go. Let's engage the transmission. Whoop. There we go. Get in there. And oh, careful. All right. Perfect. Who's dingling me? Somebody's dingling me. Trying to film a video here. Stop dingling me. Oh, thank you. Alright, I'll just tighten that up and we'll be good to go. We got drive shaft action. I'll wipe all the stupid fingerprints on it. Don't ever paint the underside of your car yellow and then get greasy hands on it, because you constantly got to wipe it off. One thing I do need to do is I'm going to make some brackets to hold the emergency brake cables up here. I'm simply going to make a piece of like a piece of angle iron that bolts to this tab, and then I'll have the hole for the clip, and I'll mount the e-brake cable just like that, and then I'll make a hook up the front later when I got to move the lever and hook that up. But at least I'll get these tails up here and pick up the cables so they're not dragging on the ground. Okay, so I'm all buttoned up here. I just, like I said, I made the little bracket for the emergency brake cable. It's just a piece of angle iron bolted to the frame, and then with a hole for the cable. So I got these mounted up. I zip tied the cables up to the bottom of the X member. Eventually I'll relocate the pull handle to the center of the car and loop these around and get it. I'll wait till I get the car on the road before I do that. But that's all done. So the only thing left to do is to bleed the brakes. Up here in the frame, where's my finger? Finger right there is the master cylinder. And so since the master cylinder is in the floor and some of the rear line here is higher than that, I'm going to use a vacuum bleeder and help suck the brake fluid down around and make sure I get all the air out of it. So I'm going to do that next time. And then I'm going to prepare the engine to fire. And this thing should be able to get gas in it, sit down on the ground, and fire up, and I'll be able to pull it out of the garage here. So I know I've been teasing it for the last couple of videos, but I think I'm actually at the point where I can fire this thing up now. I got to check the timing. Last time I was trying to set the timing, it seemed like the distributor needed to crank around more. It was hitting the firewall, so I might have to pull the distributor out and crank it around one tooth, and then to move the housing, then I can set the timing where it needs to be. But in the meantime, it's going to be just bleeding them brakes and setting the car down and putting fuel in it, and it's going to be ready to fire up. So I'm excited. I want to hear this thing make noise and move it around and see how it works, this new rear suspension. And I've got my new, I just bought some new front tires the other day, so I'll put all new rubber all the way around on it, and hopefully it drives good. And I still got some tinkering around to do it, but I want to get on to other things like my my boogie van project. So once I get this thing moving and running around, I can go and get it inspected and just putter around town with it until I fix the transmission issue. But in the meantime, it'll get one more thing done here. So good progress today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again with the 40 Mercury at the Quick Speed Shop.